WWE SmackDown on Friday night, and then later that night I watched the Hall of Fame ceremony, and then the following day I watched the countdown show to WrestleMania, and then of course I watched both nights of WrestleMania 42. 4 days, somewhere in the region of like 20 hours of WWE content in a row. And now I can officially say that I am done. I'm taking a break, and possibly even a long one. Not because WrestleMania was a bad show, parts of it were genuinely fantastic. Seth Rollins vs. Gunther was
a 10 out of 10 match that reminded me of why I fell in love with the sport. The IC ladder match on night 2 might be the best match of 2026. Femi beating Brock Lesnar was everything it needed to be. Roman vs. Punk delivered. But here's the thing, I've been watching WWE weekly since September after SummerSlam last year. 6 hours a week minimum, every Raw, every SmackDown, every PLE. I invested months into this product building toward WrestleMania, and the show gave me 1 hour and 20 minutes of actual wrestling across a 4-hour night 1. Stephanie Vaquer vs. Liv Morgan, your reigning world champion against your Royal Rumble winner, got 7 minutes. Pat McAfee got 5 minutes, and the Hulk Hogan documentary felt like it got over 2 hours. That's not a wrestling show, that's a variety program with wrestling segments, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Let me take you back to early 2026, because SmackDown was actually genuinely great. Not good, great. My favorite wrestling show at the time. They were using the roster to its fullest potential. Mid-carders were getting meaningful storylines. The women's division was building towards something. Every week felt like it mattered. And then Randy Orton's heel turn happened. If you didn't watch it live, you need to understand that moment was electric. Randy Orton turning on Cody Rhodes was one of the greatest moments I've experienced live as a wrestling fan. The crowd was losing their minds. The history between these two, going back to 2007 to Legacy to WrestleMania 26, 20 years of story condensed into one beating of Cody, and it was perfect. Cody versus Randy was supposed to be the match that WrestleMania 42 was built around. A dream match, 20 years of history, two of the greatest performers of their generation. Simple, clean, no gimmicks needed, just let them tell a story. And then Pat McAfee showed up. For anyone outside of American sports media like myself, Pat McAfee is a former NFL player turned ESPN presenter. He is not a wrestler. He has appeared in WWE in a fun celebrity role, but that's exactly what it was. A fun celebrity role. A side dish. Not the main course. On the April 3rd episode of SmackDown, in Randy Orton's hometown of St. Louis, McAfee was revealed to be the mystery caller who had been whispering in Orton's ear the entire time. He cut a promo about how the WWE had forgotten what made it great and that Orton was gonna save the business for whatever that means. And the crowd reaction was silence and scattered boos. Not the villain heat that you want, just confusion and general disappointment. WWE saw this reaction, they knew fans hated it, and they doubled down, not once, repeatedly. Week after week, McAfee was front and center to the biggest match of WrestleMania Night 1. The episode of SmackDown where they doubled down had the lowest IMDb ratings in the show's history. Not a single person liked the Pat McAfee involvement. Not one. And I say this confidently. I genuinely challenge anyone to find a wrestling fan who thought this improved the Randy vs. Cody feud. Here's my honest question to WWE. Who is this for? Pat McAfee is not famous enough outside of American sports media to bring new eyeballs to WrestleMania, and he's absolutely famous enough within wrestling circles to make existing fans furious. That is the worst possible combination for a celebrity involvement. Meanwhile, you had other options available. Kevin Owens would have been fantastic. Ted DiBiase Jr. You could have done Bob Orton as well. You had 20 years of actual wrestling history to draw from, and instead you chose an NFL guy. The Pat McAfee situation is a symptom of a bigger disease. The disease is this: WWE increasingly builds its biggest show for people who don't watch wrestling at the expense of the people that do. Let me give the clearest example possible. Carmelo Hayes and Ilja Dragunov spent months on SmackDown putting on matches that were the sole reason I was tuning into that show in November and December. When everything else was mediocre, these guys were working their heart out week after week, carrying SmackDown, building something genuinely exciting with the US title and the Open Challenge. Their reward? Carmelo lost the title to Sami Zayn 2 weeks before WrestleMania. Neither of them got a WrestleMania match, the most natural match in WWE. Carmelo versus Ilja in an Iron Man match or a 2 out of 3 falls at WrestleMania never happened. Instead, Sami Zayn faced Trick Williams, a feud that could have happened anyways without the US title. So why take it from the guys who earned it? Because Trick Williams has more casual name recognition. The decision makers looked at the card and thought Sammy and Trick would play better to a mainstream audience than Carmelo and Ilja. And that is the problem in one sentence. WWE is constantly making decisions that sacrifice its best wrestlers for its most recognizable names. And fans who actually watched week after week, who invested in Carmelo and Ilja, like myself, and knew what they were capable of, we get nothing. We are an afterthought. The loyal audience is an afterthought. I'm gonna say this clearly, and I'm sure you've heard this before. Night 1 of WrestleMania 42 had 4 hours of airtime and produced 1 hour and 20 minutes of wrestling. The matches that did happen were largely good. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre was brutal and perfect in my opinion. Seth Rollins vs Gunther was the best match of the entire weekend, a 10 out of 10 match that reminded me of something that I'm used to seeing in AEW, not in WWE. The Paige return was a good moment, even if I think that it overshadowed the women on the roster who'd been building the tag division for months. Becky winning the IC title was the right call, but Wakare vs Liv got 7 minutes. Your women's world champion and your Royal Rumble winner, two of the best performers on the entire roster, got 7 minutes at WrestleMania. They cooked with the time they had. They were great with 7 minutes, but imagine what they could have done with like 10 more minutes. And then there was the main event. Going into Randy vs Cody, I was not excited. The build had done its damage, but I told myself to take it on its own terms, and honestly, once the match started, once Jelly Roll had taken out McAfee, it became one-on-one. It really picked up. It was awesome. The punt at the end and what looks like a double turn was fantastic. But I spent the first several minutes of that match not watching wrestling. I was watching Pat McAfee making his entrance. I was watching him stand in the ring before the bell rang. I was trying to figure out how to fast forward a live show. That was my mental state during the main event of WrestleMania. The match was good despite the build, not because of it. And Cody retaining was absolutely the right call, which I'm sure not a lot of people are gonna agree with, but it was too late for me to fully enjoy it the way I should have. I want to talk about AEW Dynasty for a second. Dynasty is considered a flawed AEW pay-per-view by AEW standards, not their best show, a good show, not a great one, and yet Dynasty ran 13 matches. Every major name on the AEW roster got a spot. MJF vs Kenny Omega in the main event delivered. Young Bucks vs Okada and Takeshita was a classic. Darby Allin earned a title shot and ended up winning on the following episode of Dynamite. Moxley retained the Continental title over Ospreay. Pure wrestling, top to bottom. No celebrities, no documentary segments, no padding, just wrestling. And here's what makes the comparison even more damning. AEW's top names are Christian Cage, Adam Copeland, Chris Jericho, guys in their late 40s and early 50s. WWE has Carmelo Hayes, Ilja Dragunov, Io Sky, Raquel Rodriguez, some of the most talented young wrestlers in the world right now. AEW, with older stars and a smaller budget, finds a way to give everyone a meaningful spot on their biggest shows. WWE, with the best roster in the world and the biggest stage in wrestling, gives you 40 minutes of Hulk Hogan documentary and 7 minutes for your world title match. That difference is not about talent, it's about philosophy. AEW believes wrestling is the product. WWE increasingly believes wrestling is one ingredient in a larger entertainment pack, and I know which one I want to watch. Night 2 was significantly better, and that almost made it worse. The IC ladder match was everything Night 1's main card should have been. Javon had a moment I'll be talking about for years. Rey Mysterio at 51 doing things that shouldn't be physically possible. Penta hitting a Mexican destroyer off a ladder. Goosebumps. Genuinely, this was the wrestling show I came to WrestleMania for. Femi beating Brock Lesnar was exactly the right call. Quick, physical, dominant, Femi arriving in as a superstar in real time. Brock removing his gloves and boots in the ring and retiring afterwards was genuinely emotional, even for someone who wasn't his biggest fan. Roman vs Punk was the proper main event that Night 1 never got to be. Two guys who hate each other, no gimmicks, just storytelling. Incredible. And here's the cruel joke. Night 2 showed me exactly what WWE is capable of when it gets out of its own way. The talent is there, the matches are there, the moments are there. But when Roman wins the title and announces he's going full time for the summer, and my reaction is, and I mean this honestly, I'll believe it when I see it. Not because I don't want Roman to be full time, but because the product has trained me through years of over promising and under delivering to assume the worst. That instinct doesn't go away after one good night. Raw after Mania was genuinely good. More action-packed than usual episodes, clear storyline directions being established, Obafemi challenging Roman for Backlash is exactly the right direction. The Cody and Punk dynamic building towards something feels intriguing. The new NXT call-ups like Ethan Page, Joe Hendry, Sol Ruka joining Raw is exciting, and I still couldn't fully enjoy it. Not because the show was bad, but because I was burnt out. 4 days of wrestling content back to back had left me empty, and in that state of exhaustion I had a very clear thought. If I have to watch months of weekly television to get to the good stuff, and the good stuff might be undermined by a celebrity or a documentary at the last minute anyway, what am I actually investing in? I'm not rage quitting WWE. I'm not telling you to stop watching WWE. The product clearly has talent to be great, and occasionally it is. Seth vs. Gunther reminded me of that. The ladder match reminded me of that. Roman vs. Punk reminded me of that. But I've been watching 6 hours of this every week since September, and my reward for that investment was 1 hour and 20 minutes of wrestling across a 4-hour WrestleMania night. I'm taking a break, I'll be back, but right now I need one. The Randy Orton heel turn was one of the greatest moments I've experienced as a wrestling fan, and they turned it into a Pat McAfee storyline. That's not bad luck, that's a choice. And it tells you everything about where WWE's priorities are right now. The talent is there, the potential is there, and I genuinely hope that when I come back, the product has figured out what it wants to be. But I'm not holding my breath. Because when WWE is great, there's nothing better in entertainment. And I know that because I saw it 3 times this weekend between the matches that actually got time. Give your wrestlers time, trust your audience, stop chasing people who will never care about the product as much as the people who are already watching. And we'll be there when you figure it out. Alright guys, so that's been my rant about WWE. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be taking a quick break from YouTube for about a couple of weeks because I'm an engineering student and I've got finals coming up, so I really gotta lock in for those. But do follow the socials. I'll be keeping you guys up to date on that. Nightwake YT on X and Instagram. But yeah, that's been it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.